So anyway, so like I'm coming off a cold, so if I sound a little weird, that's what's happening, right? And first off, it's gonna sound a little irresponsible, but I've been taking a lot of precautions. I'm wearing 2 layers of protective mouth thing. I'm wearing a mask, and over the mask, I'm wearing a gaiter. And every time I actually cough, I'm doing the check, right? And there's a lot of food around me when I'm doing this, so I'm doing the rotate and cough check 6 feet away from the guy that's cutting behind me. So I'm being safe.
Well, good, because it's March of 2020 all of a sudden, so we're all
Look, people are freaked out. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I know a lot of people that can relate to this. I'm not feeling very well. I'm under the weather. I cannot afford to not go to work. And it's not because I don't have a sick time, because I got enough saved up to where I could take a sick day if I want. I'm in the probation period, which means yes,
they can get rid of you for any reasons.
So I'm not calling off or whatever, and I'm hiding my illness by chain ingesting cough drops, which has given me some interesting symptoms. Most of which, I've been taking so many of these fucking cough drops, and they're menthol cough drops, which totally clear out. I love them. However, when I have the mask and my gaiter on, it turns these ducts by my nose into ram air jets into my eyeballs, and the menthol is terrible. So when the guy so I have been cutting meat for almost 10 years now. I'm good at cutting meat. I'm a good meat cutter. I'm a good butcher. However, I have found that in cutting meat in different areas, it's different. So I could be cutting meat at this one store forever, and I go to this other store, and they have a completely different way of cutting it, and they want you to do that, and it's stupid and silly because they think their way is the best way, and the easiest thing to do is just say, you're right, let me do it your way, because being adaptive is important in meat cutting. So this guy's explaining how to do this stuff. I have to do a cutting test, which is where they take the weight of the meat beforehand and after, and the yield, and find out how good you are, right? So he's like giving me some last minute pointers about the stuff, and I'm looking at him, but I'm breathing menthol in my eyes, so I'm like squinting like bottom up, and I'm like salivating, like tearing up a little bit. So my look is of confusion and distraught at the same time as he's explaining me how to prepare for this cut test, which again is not a big deal. It's just a cut test. It's not a big deal, but I'm treating it like it's my final on the what's your career going to be in the 1950s, where it was like a permanent record type shit. So he's like, oh, I think you should cut it like this. And I'm like, okay. It's fucking awful. And during the test, we cut the fillet so Dave will understand this more than anyone. The back of the fillet that's got the 2 muscles on it, that small one that's got that big tendon between the barrel of the fillet and that little wing muscle, we cut that straight off. And then the other fat half, the strap, because they call it the chain at where I'm at, but I always learned the chain was at the bottom. Again, it's semantics. Anyway, they just cut that bit straight off, and then they flip the tenderloin over and they cut off that other back muscle, and they use that for a certain cut, or they leave it on that back part of the muscle and they cut it for a different cut. I was doing leave it on the muscle and cut it, but my first tenderloin I pulled out of the box to cut for my cut test, I cut it the wrong way. They had the fucking, so that was stupid and stressful. And then for the rest of the time, I kept thinking about in 8th grade when I told that kid he was fat, and I didn't mean it, but I was trying to fit in, and it was just awful. And I fucking got through the test thinking this is the end of my meat cutting career forever. But I got a little bit of reprieve from the guy that was training me, because he looked at my results, and he was watching me cutting the whole time, which is awful, by the way. There's nothing worse than cutting a tenderloin and having someone binocular eye to you. And he
someone over
didn't
your
go,
shoulder is the worst.
ugh. So I think I did pretty good.
Oh, that's good.
He would have told me like I did terrible. And we like put our, so there's like a machine that you can put we make what they call barrels. So we cut the tails off, which is like the pointy end at the end of the fillet, and where those two muscles are, we cut that into something else. We leave the center, which would be the Chateaubriand, if you're in the know. That whole center chunk as barrels, and we send them to this machine that will laser read the meat and then cut them. And we did that, and I had a high yield of 8 ounce, which is the best seller, and my offcuts or my shorts were usable for everything below 8 ounce all the way to 2. So 2 is the lowest. They don't sell 1 ounce medallions, but they sell 2 ounce medallions. So they were able to yield 7, 6, 5, 4s, 3s, and 2s out of that. And there was nothing to be left over after that. So that was really good. I fucking nailed my cutting test.
Good job.
However,
Congratulations.
Yes. However, it was a terrible, terrible, stressful thing, much like it was for the Ferrari drivers in the Zandvoort GP. And with that, we are the Tire Preference Podcast, and we're giving you a race review of Zandvoort.
Hey.
Hey-o.
Hey-o.
It was a pretty good race too.
It was a really good race. It was fun to watch.
I do say, yeah, it was very exciting to watch. It was the start was a little like thought it was gonna be kind of slow, and then getting towards the end, it really picked up, and I was just like the last few laps, like, oh, holy shit, this is some stuff I haven't seen before.
Right. Well, I think that like, and I'm sorry for the coughing. I am coming off a cold, so my voice is going to sound a little different. I'm going to be coughing, so I'm going to try and face that away from the microphone as much as possible. But
yeah, don't get me
accidents will happen. Hey, yeah, let's do that. Yeah, it was a really interesting weekend. I'm enjoying my week 2 of watching. I actually watched the qualifying live, which was really fun. And I watched the race live. And I think next week I'm going to try and watch free practice 1, 2, and 3. So Suzuka in Japan, which is I think 2 or 3 races from now, is coming on at 12 in the morning my time.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna like force myself to not have any beers until midnight. I'm gonna stay up and watch the race.
You're gonna stay up and watch it, huh?
I really miss, like, there was a couple of years where Tyler and I were living together, and we would set our timers, our alarm clocks for like 3 o'clock in the morning, even knowing that we had work later. And we'd get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and we'd watch the race and have a beer or two. And then we would nap for like 30 minutes and then go to work. But that's what you do when you're 21 and 18. So, or 19.
Tell you how many times when I was working at the pizza place where like I would be starting to watch the race. Like it was one that came on mid-morning. So like Monaco, for example, which started at like 7. Right. And then I have to head into work, and then I just drive into work as fast as I can because the pizza place didn't open for like 3 hours, and I'm like turning a TV on and like trying to find the channel it's on.
Right. I really miss that a lot. Like the beginnings of like you and I watching F1 and like being up at like odd hours. Like I'd have friends that are like, oh, like, yeah, I'd be like interested in watching F1. What time's the race? I'm like, oh, you got to be at our house like 2:45 in the morning because it starts at 3. And they're like, oh, yeah, let me call you on that. And then you like text him at like 2 o'clock and they get no fucking answer. And meanwhile, Tyler and I'd be like bare feet on the desk, watching it on the computer screen, having a dead guy or whatever. Hell yeah. It was, I genuinely missed that.
Having a dead guy.
Dead guy L.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, we made a rule that we're not alcoholics because we're enjoying a beer during our favorite sporting event. This is no different than having a job that you have on a Sunday and or watching NFL. You know?
Yep.
It's okay to have a beer at 3 o'clock in the morning. when you're watching Formula One.
That's exactly right.
I did miss that. Anyway, so this is the like I said, the Tire Preference Podcast. I'm looking at Dave. I'm looking at Tyler. We're here to tell you about the Zandvoort GP, and we're going to give you our predictions for Monza. But first, boys, let's talk about what we're drinking. Yeah, take that sun away. That's disgusting. Fucking animal. No, it's still bad. It's still bad. Why do you have
There it is.
a west-facing apartment?
All good. All good.
Fucking savage.
That was all that was fucking available when we moved in here.
People like that back home. They like the east-west facing shit. I don't know what
Fuck
it is.
no, that sucks.
No,
It's
man.
5 o'clock. It's like the heat of the day, and I have the sun beating down on that side of my apartment.
Yeah,
Right.
no good. No.
Anyway, whatever. So where were we at? Yes.
We're talking about drinks. I'm gonna go first. So I'm finishing up a red blend. I'm almost done. And then after that, I'm having Legion Space Dust. That's my new favorite thing because it's at the 7-Eleven less than a block from my house. And that's what I'm drinking for my tall cans.
Oh yeah, they have those there. I forgot about that.
They just changed it over. So they used to have
Like Voodoo Rangers.
well, they had
remember that.
Voodoo Ranger, and they had Voodoo Ranger Imperial, which were the ones I got because they're the 9.0s.
Yeah,
And
those are
yes,
rough.
but they got rid of those and they got Elysian Space Dust, and they got another Goose Island, or they got a Goose Island one that's it's like Bear Beach or Beach Bear. I have one right here. Tropical Beer Hug. This is actually from last week. This shows you how much of a terrible person I am. It's this guy right here. It's a pretty good IPA. It's running up there at 9.9. The Elysian Space Dust is also up there. It's like 8.9 or something. I'm not sure. But anyway, I got the Space Dust, so it's coming up. I'm gonna blur my background because that's professional.
I'll do that too.
There's Suki again. Suki.
I have Mirror Pond Pale Ale. That's what I'm drinking.
Oh, I fucking love that brew. If you're listening to this podcast, you never had Mirror Pond Pale Ale. Mirror Pond Pale Ale is the best pale ale you'll ever have in your entire life.
From Deschutes Brewing out of Bend, Oregon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Deschutes.
Like, it is legitimately the best pale ale that is on the market.
Good
Dave, what
stuff.
are you drinking?
Silver bullets tonight. I don't
Colorado
have,
lemonade.
I am currently not at my normal place of residence. We're a few hundred miles south in Southfork, Colorado, and I've been busy, so I didn't pick up any beers. I just had what's in the
Well,
fridge.
hold on. Time out. So we rarely have these, but I think we need to have one right now. Let's go ahead and have a Dave. Where are you? And Dave, listen real close so they don't hear me. What are you in?
Like I said, Southfork, Colorado. We came down because we bought a new camper. Finally,
You bought a
got
new
it.
camper.
Yay!
So we've upgraded to bigger camper, and we had to drive down to Southfork, Colorado to get it, and we're staying a night down here to make sure everything is kosher.
Yeah. So how far away is South Fork from your last residence?
Almost 5-hour drive. Well, I think we got down here in about 4.5. So
Damn, girl.
Jesus.
yeah, it's a trek, but it's a lot of because we can't take some of the passes because we were bringing a trailer, so we had to kind of go around. Otherwise, it would have been like right at 4 hours, 3.5, something like that.
So that kind of answers my next question. And like when people move house, they don't generally take their house to a location to move the house. However, you're
trade in
in a
their house.
unique situation. So was this a trade in? Did you trade the trailer in, or do you own a fleet now? Are you going to become an admiral?
No, we did. We traded it in. We traded
Traded
Friday
it
in. We had to. We could not. It was a good a good vacation camper, but not a good living camper. It just wasn't big enough. And honestly, it wasn't put together really
For sure.
super quality, so we
For living, it would have been a good vacation camper, but living is not.
yeah, 2 weeks and you're good. Otherwise, after that stuff's gonna start breaking. I shattered a window, things like that.
Dave was drinking
It-
Monster one day and
Right.
started punching out
Yeah.
the drywall.
It's still hard for me to believe, and maybe the listeners to believe that you are genuinely nomadic. You are living in a trailer full time. You do not have a
Oh, yeah.
house. There is no home base. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
you got
pull-
plenty of places around the country you could stay,
Yeah.
but
No official home base. Our home base is
Official home
wherever
base.
we park.
Mhm.
So yeah, my house is pulled by my truck. It's very nice.
I heard someone say once that home is wherever the handbrake is on.
Oh, nice.
Exactly.
I like it.
So will you? So you can obviously still tow this with the rig you got.
Yeah, it's
Will you and Annie ever upgrade from this to like a fifth wheel and upgrade your
Oh,
truck?
I don't want a fifth wheel. Those are, I mean, that's too much. Those are huge. This honestly, this is gonna last us at least, 5 years at the very, very minimum, because
Right.
we paid enough for it.
Sure. Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, well, we might, if we decide to keep doing this down the road, we might upgrade to something a little bigger, but we'd have to get another truck. So this is about the biggest I want to pull with the truck I have.
So if you were to upgrade, would you rather upgrade to a bigger pull along, or would you rather upgrade to a like an RV that you drive and tow a vehicle behind you?
We actually looked into class A, a smaller class A, but
Mhm.
it started causing problems when we found out you can't flat tow a Tacoma. You have to put it on a dolly or a trailer.
Right.
So that would have
Yeah.
caused just a pain in the ass, because those dollies
Sure.
are no fun. And
No.
then if something goes wrong and you got to take you're taking your home to go into a shop to get fixed. So it's like,
Right. And
that's,
you got nowhere to stay.
yeah. And the maintenance on those things, like just tires alone's up in like the thousands of dollars. It's like, nah,
Right.
it gets too expensive. So
That makes a lot of sense.
the travel trailers, our way to go, best way to go for us.
Mhm. That's great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Glad for you
enjoy it.
guys.
Yeah, happy for you.
Well, there really is no segue except for you boys ready to talk about F1. We talked about the beers, we talked about the stuff. We gave, for the first time in a long time, an update on Dave. Where are you?
Yep.
And
I'm
so
ready to go. Let's do some F1.
let's talk about the weekend.
Let's
Man,
talk
this
about
was a
F1.
really good action-packed weekend. Completely loved what was going on here. The practices I did not watch, but I checked out a little bit, and they were showing like a really strong Mercedes go, and Ferrari was looking really strong, and I think that Red Bull was looking strong too, but Red Bull is starting in my mind to become like a Mercedes team where they're sandbagging the practices on purpose to get the other teams, which we talked about a lot last year, not on the podcast, but just in general, like between the three of us. Mercedes is like really good at sandbagging practices and dominating on race weekends. And I think we saw a lot of that from Red Bull.
Yeah. Max and Checo, neither of them really were outstanding in any of the practices.
No.
And usually Max he's up there in practice. He's, top 3 generally every practice. So
Yeah.
for him to where did he finish off on? I know he was fairly low on a couple of them.
So practice 1, Verstappen, and I think he had a problem in P1 because he finished 19th.
Oh yeah, he had a gearbox issue or something.
Yeah, he had a gearbox or something like that. And then Verstappen finished 8th in P2, and Perez finished. I'm sorry, I'm scrolling back and forth. I'm looking for context clues. Lower than him, 12th, and then P3. If this will fucking load up. I know. Verstappen showed a little bit more fight. He finished 3rd, and Perez finished 6th. And I think that, like, given the pace that Red Bull has had for this season coming up to this point, that is definite sandbagging. That
Yeah,
is
they tore a page
100%.
right out of Mercedes'
Yeah.
book on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyler, do you have any comments to that, being a Red Bull fiend?
I mean, I'm not surprised. In practice, they want to get like the best setup for the car, but they also want to get the feel for the track. So I can see like
Right.
their whole thing is to be like, yeah, get the feel from the track. We're not going to, go full pace because we don't want to show all of our cards at once. There's no reason to.
No.
Right. And I think you can't, especially nowadays, it's easier to do that because when we have these practices, qualifying and all that stuff, that is nuts and bolts car on track. But that the practice time does not give into account the simulator time that these people might have for this track. And you better believe that, like we've been having, we just came off a race weekend. We're starting another race weekend. They don't get to track till maybe Thursday, Wednesday at the earliest, Thursday at the latest, and they have Friday for practice, Saturday for qualifying or a sprint, and then Sunday for the race. You better believe that in the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday after the last race, they are simulator racing 100%.
Oh, I'm sure.
And given the amount of technology we have these days and the data that can be accrued from just hard cars on the track, it is nigh realistic. And you can get a lot of information just from these simulations. Yes. And it's not just drive the car that we have set up around the track. They will they'll have 30, 40 people doing so it's not just Max and Sergio doing these VR tests. They have a whole VR team, virtual reality team that will do these certain things, certain scenarios. Let's race under this setup in the wet. Let's race under this setup with a hot track. Let's race under this setup with the cold track. And they'll have these guys that just race a race distance under virtual reality with these certain parameters for a certain reason, and they'll use all of that to create their strategy. So there's no one is going into a track cold like they used to. Like back in the 70s and 80s where this wasn't even a fucking thought. You went into a track and you're going, okay, well, we're in Zandvoort or whatever the fuck, however it's pronounced.
Zandvoort.
It could rain, but there's sand on the track, so let's get ready for everything. You have people that do everything, and they can give you a better idea on the track. So I think, given that, the fact that Verstappen finished where he did, not like P1, almost standing because that was a gearbox issue. You can't. I mean, you can't predict that. That shit just happens. I think they were sandbagging a little bit.
It looked like it.
Yeah.
Probably.
But like Tyler's, why you can't blame them. I mean, don't show all your cards and
Oh yeah, I'm not saying they shouldn't be doing that. I'm just saying they were.
yeah. Well, it's
pretty
new
obvious.
for Red Bull. You never
It is. Yeah.
previously
Usually you
ever
see
would see them doing
Mercedes
stuff
do
like
this.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. And then we had qualifying, which was real interesting.
Mhm.
Yep. So qualifying, I watched live because whoop whoop, I have a weekends off now. And so I took notes, but I lost those. I don't know what I did with them. I did. So I have a notebook that's like my F1 notebook, and I couldn't find it. And the one place I did not look was right in front of where I sit when I do a podcast. And that's where it was. But so I tried to take notes on my phone. It didn't save. It was fucking stupid. But I do remember Q3. The first person out was Alex Albon. He's about halfway through the track and it got red flagged. And I was looking at this going, what in the actual fuck is going on? And the
He was the only
commentators,
one on the track.
he was the only one on the track. He's still moving around the track. The commentator's like, yeah, we have a red flag on the track, but Albon's still moving around. He's the only one. And you found out that it was pigeons that were on the track that were causing this. And I just thought that was the funniest fucking thing in the world. Like, it cut.
That was the smoke flare, wasn't it? That red flagged it, not the pigeons.
Was it the smoke
But
flares?
it was the red.
Yeah.
That red flagged it, and then they had somebody go out and try to chase the pigeons away.
I think you're right. Yeah. So
I did see video on Reddit of the guy throwing the smoke can onto the racetrack.
Oh no shit!
Now,
Yeah.
you guys can disagree, agree with me from this, but I think the smoke flares before and during the race are fucking dumb. Don't fucking light them off. That's stupid. It just creates a hazard on the track. And we get it. You're a Max fan. Whoop-de fucking do. You don't need to light a fucking smoke signal and fucking, put that out for everyone.
At every fucking race too.
Every fucking race. You're causing a hazard on the track.
Red.
I'd still be pissed about it. Yeah.
I would 100%. I would 100%. And the reason why is because not the reason why, but like getting to it is during the race, during qualifying, whatever, when people under race conditions, don't light the fucking flares. If Max wins or whatever, and you want to light the flare on his victory lap, fucking go for it, because people are not doing race pace. They're not trying to pass. They're not trying to battle with someone through a potentially thick fog cloud of orange smoke. Everyone's doing half distance. They're just getting back to the pits. It's Max's victory lap. Light them bitches up. Celebrate yourself. But don't do it during the race. Don't do it during practice or qualifying or anything that's meaningful. Do it at the end.
I think that's what they were trying to enforce, was that people didn't light the flares until the end.
Right.
And I feel like they're pretty good about it this one. I didn't see any of the practices or qualifying, but I didn't see
and during the race, I didn't either, except for I think there was two fools that chucked it on the thing. But
I don't know. I just think it's I mean, if I was a fan in the stands and I just had a waft of just orange smoke hit me I'd be pissed.
Right. You spend all this money to watch these cars go by, and as they go by, this is fucking orange smoke with this fucking beer gutted guy behind you go. Yeah, fuck that dude.
About like people that get stuck under those giant flags at like soccer games.
Yeah. Or like the ones that
I can't see.
They had like the giant flags at Monza 2 years ago. And they were like, entire stands full, So at one point, like half me feels like if that's like the whole stand is Telefasi, they'll just be totally into it. But if it's not, then that's going to cause some problems.
I'd get pissed. I'm here to see a fucking race, not the back of a goddamn flag.
Right, exactly.
No shit.
So at the end, so as we were saying, Q3 qualifying 3. The first person that was Alex Albon, which was kind of cool, kind of fun. Albon is doing his thing. He is being a team player. He is being a fucking race car driver. He's going up there and doing whatever. And then halfway through the track, we get a red flag. And it's very confusing because, why would there be a red flag for someone who's on the track by himself? Well, that'd be from an agent. I'm losing the word. Perpetrator? Avian perpetrator? Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
It was fucking pigeons. Pigeons. They called the red flag. Well, they called the red flag for the the flare, which we already talked about. That's dumb. Do for the victory lap, not anything before. But they also had it for the pigeons, and you got like. Did you guys see the video of the guy running after pigeons?
Yeah.
No, I did not see
It's
that.
fucking silly shit. Like you gotta think like this was The Apprentice, and then like the old crotchety bastards like, hey Yarpy, go out there and fucking chase the pigeons, and fucking Yarpy's out there chasing the pigeons, doing the Frankenstein walk. You know, this is right after he got sent to the hardware store looking for the left-handed 1D10T hammer. If you don't know what that is, write it down. 1D10T hammer. That's not something you want to go look for. Fucking Yarpy was out there. The best part about pigeons is like they're sitting in a spot and they see Yarpy coming out there, like hands out, fingers exposed, like chasing them. You know, this is his first time being a marshal or whatever, and he's on international TV chasing pigeons. They take off, and then when you leave the area, and by that I mean 5 feet away from where they were, they land again. So you had to like keep going back and forth trying to chase these fucking pigeons.
Oh, Jesus, that's awesome.
It was quite
Absolutely.
entertaining.
Yeah, it was fucking. But we got through qualifying, you know, not surprisingly, Max V got first, and then followed by Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, Lewis Hamilton, Perez, and George Russell, top of the top six. Those are still the reason we're only going to the top six is those are your front runners as far as constructors championships. So best of the rest starts extremely after them, which funny enough does start after them in qualifying with Lando Norris finishing seventh. But your top three goers for constructors are Red Bull, Mercedes, and Ferrari.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, not surprising there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, then the race was on Sunday.
Yep.
Before we go any further, let's address the elephant in the room. I don't think we did it when we first started. Jake had computer difficulties and now is podcasting from his telephone. Is why he sounds so silly.
Yes. So yeah, I am, and that's why my pictures of our logo, but you can see my hand if I. Nope, you can't. All right. Well, whatever.
But
yeah,
anyway,
I am podcasting from my phone. That's why I sound silly as fuck. I have a headset in, so for some reason my computer decided to stop communicating with everyone else. But whatever, fuck it.
So yeah, race starts. Maxwell got away pretty clean. Had a pretty good sizable lead. And then we had our first little racing incident, which was Magnussen's very clean off the track and then back on the track. So that was kind of nice.
Did you see Hamilton almost DNF signs on turn one?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton in the first turn fucking was getting crazy with that shit. And then Magnussen heading off right after that.
I'm sure Lewis was going into that turn just thinking to himself, he's like, okay, I was at. Yeah, I was at. Yeah, I was okay. Just if it happens, I was car like that. Yep, that was me. Car like that.
Man, what the fuck, man? What the fuck? What
He almost put his wheel right into his side pod.
So race kind of.
Before we move on, first lap stuff, especially first turn stuff, except for like really specific circumstances, you really cannot hold people accountable for that shit, because that is, a lot of times the FIA just rules it as a racing incident. It's first lap stuff. Everyone's crowded. Everything happens crazy.
Yeah.
If you are in front of someone, you really cannot see people beside you. It's not like driving a car on the highway. You can't look 90 degrees and see someone over there when you're in an F1 car. You really only get, 88 degrees of
Yeah.
like looking maybe 90 at tops, you know?
You don't get much.
So-
You don't get much at
Yeah.
all.
Right.
And there's
They
a
got
lot
that
going
thing
on
in there,
this
they can't-
corner too. So
Okay, you can't turn, and there's blind spots, you know. So
Yeah, and like
let's
like
keep that in
Tyler,
mind.
like Tyler said, fucking turn one's always interesting. It's
Oh,
rare
yeah.
to see a totally clean turn one. Nobody gets rubbed on, you know, nobody
Mhm.
no contact, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
and when I used to watch Formula One, like when I first started Formula One, in turn one, I would always look for like the racers I liked, you know. So I'd always like watch the Ferrari cars. Oh, they got through great, and I'd watch, you know, because usually it's a stationary camera, and then I'd watch the cars go up the track. But now anymore, I pick like about just before the apex, not the actual apex or the exit. I usually pick just before the apex, and I look for tire smoke, and I look for weird movements. I focus on an area of the turn in the first turn of the first lap of the Grand Prix right from the start to see interesting things happen. So I will completely ignore the Ferrari cars going through them after they pass the apex. That's not interesting anymore. What is going into that apex in the first turn, because that's where all the fuck ups happen.
Yeah.
yeah, that's where shit gets nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
So yeah, moving along, race kind of starts chugging along. It was a longer one as far as number of laps goes. And
it was.
Zandvoort,
4 laps, I think is what they said.
72.
yeah, 72 laps. And
Was
it's
it
not
I don't remember.
it doesn't have the best areas for passing.
No, it doesn't.
But you know, teams play strategy, and then we'll see what happens when they pit. You know, there's the undercut, there's the overcut, there's waiting for you know, yellow flags and everything. And Ferrari decides to go for the undercut with Carlos Sainz, and they did a horrible job. It was
Yeah, they
almost
played cocked it up. Yeah, he came out 11th after that pit.
yeah, and it was a 12.7 second pit stop. Usually,
It
like
was awful.
the cars are stationary for about 3 seconds. Carlos Sainz was stationary for about 13 seconds, which sent a lot of fucking people in front of him.
So
Yeah.
it's a long time, and if you are new to F1, if you want to experience like the time for that, like just like tap on a table or whatever, or like do some kind of signal, and then tap, and then count 12 Mississippi, and then boom, and that is a fucking eternity. That's half. That's like a quarter of a lap at this place.
Yeah, if you want an ideal comparison to that, if you're standing on an overpass and you see a car go by, count 12 seconds and see how far
Mhm.
down the road it goes on a freeway.
Yeah, and that's not even going F1 speeds, but yeah,
Yeah.
so it's even worse. So like when we tell you in the past that a 4-second pit is an eternity, a 12-second pit is a fucking eon.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, that it looked like one of the tires wasn't ready to go or something like that. From what I saw in
Yeah,
the
I think
video.
they pitted late, and the mechanics weren't ready for him or something like that, or the commentators when I was watching the race said that, well, they might have had the tires messed up in the blankets, which is a total possibility.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard it may have been just there was just a lack of communication because they brought him in so quickly
I heard that too.
that the guys in the, you know, the crew just couldn't, they just weren't ready in time.
Right.
And
right.
so not only did that cost them time on the track, but it might cost them financially too, because Carlos Sainz on the way out of the pit ran over their air gun for the tire.
No, that was
Sergio Perez.
that was Perez did that.
Sorry,
Right.
so that was Sergio Perez when he came out of the Red Bull pit stop. he ran over their tire gun, which was just kind of sitting in the way.
Yeah, it was just
of
like
his exit.
laying out in the fucking road,
Well,
man.
So
Yeah.
each square, and by square I mean tire, they have 2 air guns that are attached to similar lines. So if one fails, they can grab the other and start that. And so if you look at it, especially when they showed the footage of them repairing it, the Y junction between the two was so far separated they only ran over the one. And they were really concerned, and especially because clients had already like racked up a couple of fucking penalties at this point. They're really concerned that like they were going to give Ferrari another financial penalty because they left their gun out there in the middle of the pit lane. So, but I didn't. Yeah.
So then right after that, I have to ask you guys, they very shortly after Carlos Sainz's disaster of a pit stop, they talked to Matteo Benito, the team principal on Ferrari. Did you guys understand anything he said on the broadcast?
No.
Not really.
Yeah.
No, he talks so soft and in such a
He
thick
does.
accent when he speaks English that it's like I can never understand what he's saying half the time.
I feel like he fakes it.
Really?
You think he just fakes how like
He does.
loud
He
his
fakes
voice
it.
is?
Well, I mean, he talks so
Hates
soft.
it.
Oh, hates it. Oh, I gotcha. I like when they get Steiner on there. He's always good.
Yeah, and it's like they talk to Red Bull when like good things are happening, and it seems like they're only talking to Ferrari like, hey, your guy, that was just a royal fuck up. Like, what happened there?
Right.
Can you guys hear a fan in the background?
No, you're good.
We're good. Sorry to interrupt the
Yeah,
podcast like that, but it's getting
No,
hot in
it's
here.
So shortly after we had the Science pit debacle, we
Mhm.
did have for the first time this season a Merc 1-2 with
Yes.
Ham leading and Russell behind, which to the season F1 aficionados like Tyler and I is not anything out of the ordinary, but for Dave, it definitely would be.
Yeah.
It's out of ordinary for this season too.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. This season, yeah, I guess last season we were pretty dominant, but this season, this was the first time, and we're in round what? Out of 22, or like 14, 15 rounds, something like that. That's 22.
Oh shit. I yeah, something like that. I think we have like 8 races left.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. So yeah, and that was battle was, it looked like it was going to be a tough hill for Max to climb because he was going to have to pass the 2 Mercedes. You had Sergio Perez, he was a little ways behind him, so he wasn't very much help. And then Yuki Tsunoda's thing happened, and that was
we have a couple things to go over, like not in detail, but like the Mercedes is like really like Mercedes' team is really starting to look good. Like around lap 30, it looks like the old Mercedes team and all that. And I was
And their pit stops were really good too.
The pit stops were on fire, and I hate to say it, but like they were looking good, and it was kind of enjoying it. It's hard to say. But
I know. I said the same thing during the race to Annie. I was like, I don't want to root for him, but I'm kind of liking how this is going right now.
Yeah, around lap 30 out of 72, they were looking real fucking good. And Hamilton had a really intense battle with Perez. I mean, they were fucking going toe to toe.
Yeah,
it was great.
It was good racing, yeah, for sure.
And then lap 44, what happened, Tyler?
That I believe is when Yuki Tsunoda comes out of the pit and starts saying something that his tires weren't fitted.
Yeah, he said his tires were not fitted properly out of the pit.
Yeah. So he starts unbuckling his seatbelt to get out of the car, because if your tires aren't fitted correctly, that's it. If you pull over on the side of the track, because it's very dangerous for you to drive around the whole racing track with a loose tire.
Well, man, they've had like real quick to interrupt you. They've had instances in the past. We're talking like the 80s and 70s and shit, where they didn't fit a tire properly, and you have a car going full to bug, and the tire comes off at 200 miles an hour, and it's traveling at 200 miles an hour down the straight, and it clocks someone at 200 miles an hour, and it flings them ass over tea kettle and injures them. It is a like as light as these tires are. It is a measure of mass moving in a trajectory towards you, and it's gonna win. You're
Physics
not gonna
always
win.
wins.
Physics wins, and this tire is moving faster than you are, and you know its mass is transferable into your mass, and it's going to tumble you to injury.
If it doesn't kill you.
Yeah, if it doesn't kill you.
So yeah,
So it is good why Sonoda stopped. However, and this is what we're going to transfer into Conspiracy Corner.
Conspiracy corner.
yeah, this was even a little fishy for me because then he comes into the pit, and so they say, no, your tire's fine, they're fitted okay. He drives all the way around and comes back to the pit for a new set of tires, and then they reached in and they were reattaching his seatbelt.
Right,
Yes,
exactly what you're going to say. He was, as any driver would, if they thought they were going to retire from a race, he pulled over to a spot on the track and then started doing his buckles, as any driver would. However, he didn't stop, so he had to drive around the rest of the track to go to the pits and tell it to pick it back up again.
So then they tighten his belts in a really, really long pit stop.
It's raunchy. It is a raunchy pit stop.
So then they reattach a set of tires to him, and then he takes off and then pulls over on the side of the track because now there's a rear differential issue, which is odd because now he's out of the pit lane, and now it's in a point where he parked his car and would force was
it a safety car?
Yeah.
Well, and it's also really weird that like he pulled over in the first instance and said, "Oh, tire loose," and they go, "No," and he goes, "Oh yeah, no, yeah, maybe it is a tire loose," and then they pit him, and then he immediately again the DNFs to a differential issue. It's like he fucked up. Like he should have said differential issue first, and he fucked up, and so they had to bring him to the pits, play this pageantry, and then send him out again. And at the first available exit, he has a diff issue.
But then I also think too, like maybe he was having a diff issue and he thought it was like
a tire.
Was his tire was loose.
Sure, and it could feel like that. You know, if you have like a diff that's completely locked up, you could feel a little drifty in the corners, which a loose tire would definitely feel like. Where you're not handling necessarily in the manner you're used to, but it's feeling a bit of a sway.
Yeah, well, and it was just the timing of the whole thing is what sent it off.
It was,
like, ooh, this is fishy.
Yeah.
If it would have happened any other time in the race, I don't think nobody would have batted an eyelash. There's it's bad luck for Yuki.
Right. Well, and this was just a really terrible time because this really set up Verstappen to win. Hamilton to fucking lose terribly.
Well, not quite, because Max, I think, stayed out. Or no, that was the beneficial pit stop for him. He was able to get on the hard tires, I think.
Hamilton stayed out.
Yeah, and Hamilton stayed out. So now Hamilton's got used mediums, and Max has got a brand new set of hard tires. So
no, he's got a brand new set of softs.
No, not yet. That wasn't until
that was later. Yeah, that was later.
Okay.
So now he's got the hard tires, and I think they get rolling again. And then this is where the next weird thing happens and conspiracy theory corner. The Alfa Romeo, well, I guess maybe not. The Alfa Romeo of Valtteri Bottas dies on the pit straight.
So that was
Um,
on lap, just for the listeners, that was on lap 55. So that is 10 laps after Sonoda is officially off and retired.
yeah, so there had went
Yeah.
back
So
under
that was
racing
after
conditions.
under normal racing conditions. So that was after he hit the pits. Lap 44 was when he officially retired and got removed from the racetrack. And Bottas on lap 55 stopped at the end of the pit straight.
So, anywho, yes, Valtteri Bottas, his Ferrari engine,
He did.
Well,
It-
it's a little hard. Like, don't do the hard F on that.
his Ferrari engine gave out on him on the straightaway, and his car came to a rest on the right side of the track. I guess it would be, and not in a good spot because it's the end of the straightaway. So,
Well, it's a better spot than Sonona because like all of the like tow trucks and stuff that pick up cars that are on the non-escape routes are at the pit lane exit. So it was
yeah,
a
so
better.
it was a good spot in that sense, but it was a bad spot in that it is the end of the straightaway. So when they started throwing the yellow flags out, it got missed by
Carlos
Fine.
Carlos
Sainz.
Sainz.
Charles Sainz, who so like when you watch the sky, like the helicopter view, you go, Science was clearly in the wrong. Like he should not have passed Alcon at that point. But when they switched to the onboard, he was directly behind Alcon and passed him on the left hand side. So he could not see the yellow flags at that point.
I thought he
Yeah, and I
passed him
think
on
it
the
was-
right hand side.
I think he passed him on the
No.
right hand side.
Did he pass him on the right hand side?
I believe
So
he
you
did,
had-
but I did see
Yeah.
that camera view, and you could not see Bottas stopped on the side until he pulled out and started going. And they're like, "Oh shit, there he is." It was too late.
And there was no yellow flags at that point either.
There
And
wasn't,
they
yeah.
they did the commentators. I don't know if it was Crofty or Brundle or somebody had mentioned that the flag didn't that the yellow flag did like it literally didn't flash until right as Sainz was starting to pass Ocon.
Right.
So it was like, I mean, either way, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, I guess. So I mean,
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think they did it was first it was just these flags in that sector. Because then Sainz thought he was gonna have to get the place back, but there was someone right behind Esteban Ocon.
Right. Mm-hmm. It
So
was
I think-
yeah, it was Ricardo? No.
no,
Norris?
Ricardo was way back.
yeah, he was horribly bad.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, it doesn't matter who it
we're
was.
not talking about Ricardo.
So they start running all the cars through the pit lane. You see some pit stops happening too. The reason they did that was because they're removing Valtteri Bottas's car. So running, which was, in between the pit entrance and the pit exit on the straightaway. So it made sense
Right.
to bring everyone through the pit lane. So you have a lot of
Well,
traffic in there.
And we have seen this before this season. I do not remember what race, but there was another race, I think like toward the beginning of the season where there was a caution there was a stop on the pit straight. No, maybe it was like more recent than that, but there was a stop on the pit straight and they brought all the cars through the pit lane, which they will for safety. Because they're trying to remove, the car from the racetrack, and they don't want cars going by it for safety reasons. So,
Yeah. So anyway, in doing that, you have a lot of traffic on the pit lane. You have a lot of cars that are now stopping under yellow flags.
at the last minute.
Yeah, and then so you see Max Verstappen comes out on now soft tires. I think they kept Lewis Hamilton out. And then George Russell stayed out, and then there was an unsafe release with Carlos Sainz.
Mhm.
That's a tricky situation in that particular pit lane.
Yeah.
So tight.
Well, and the pit lane's really tight, but at the same time, like you train like the wheel gun guy to be the best wheel gun guy. You train the jack guy to do this jack guy. The guy that actually releases the car should know what a car coming down pit lane, how fast they are. Like, okay, they are at because the pit boxes are staggered out per what you finished last season. That's why Mercedes is the first pit box. That's why Red Bull's the second because
That's
how
where
they
you finished
finish.
in the constructors championship.
Yeah, the constructors championship last season. So you should look at that and be like, okay, this car's coming and they're passing the Mercedes that we have 3 seconds to lose the car. You can't go, oh, they're passing. Okay, oh, there's the car. Let's let her out.
Well, to be fair, in a normal pit, that might have come out just fine, just come out in front of Alonso and wouldn't have been anything at all. But the way he had to come, like, cut it and come out made it a slower release, which I think caused the unsafe release.
Well, and you're not wrong. You're not wrong in the fact that like Zandvoort has slightly angled pit stops because the pit box is so small. But that doesn't change the fact that cars are coming in the pit lane at a set speed at a set time. So
And it's a slower pit pit speed, isn't it?
no, it's 60 kilometers, so it's 100. Well, it's 60 km is what, like 40,
Like
35,
45 miles
40
an
miles
hour
an
or
hour,
something.
something like that.
Yeah.
It's not exceptional in the fact that in its relation to the pit lane speed. So you should know you should know how fast the cars are coming down, and you should know when you can release and when you can't release cars. And if you're trying to sneaky release a car in front of another car to gain track position, you should know it's a gamble and it probably won't pay out. And lo and behold, big surprise, Ferrari tried to do that and it didn't pay out. So
Shocking. Um. So yeah, that was shitty again to see. Ferrari have more shit heaved onto their shit plate.
A lot of
You
shit
know.
on that shit plate.
A lot of shit on that shit plate.
big ship
But, no,
plate.
but nothing needs to change.
Yeah.
No, yeah, nothing. No one needs to change. No, yeah, everything's fine.
So let's fast forward about a lap later. The current running order still under yellow flag conditions is Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, and then Max Verstappen. Ferrari looks like they're sitting nervously on 1 and 2. And if Max wants to win the race, he's got 2 cars he's got to go by on a set of soft tires.
Right.
And then George Russell decides at the last minute that he wants to come in and get soft tires. So he starts calling for soft tires. They box them.
Right.
So now the running order becomes Hamilton, Verstappen, and then George Russell. And
Yes.
Hamilton was pretty pissed about that.
Mm-hmm.
He was.
He let his
And-
emotions be known on the radio.
Yes, he did. And let me apologize for bringing this up like later in the fact, but did we touch on the fact that when one of the Ferraris pitted, they only had 3 tires ready?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. So ignore that. But yeah. So the fact that like Russell was able to come in and because kind of dictated what tires he wanted. He goes, the tires are trash or they were the race. Put me on these last minute pit box, and then that was the best call. Some people could say that we didn't know, so why would we pit Hamilton and put on these tires? But throughout, like, the last half of the race, there was a lot of teams on different tires. So there was a lot of data points you had on what tires were doing well. And to say that you didn't know that the softs were going to be better or the mediums is kind of a moot point. There were teams that were doing well on those tires. So
Yeah.
Russell just made a good call for himself, and it didn't pay off for Hamilton. And I think that's classic Mercedes. They are looking for a championship, highest finishing position, and I'm sorry to say it right now, that's Russell. It's not Hamilton.
Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of shitty for Hamilton. But yeah, you're right. Russell kind of I feel like he sort of made that decision for himself and the team, because I think he knew that Max on a fresh set of softs, because the Mercedes are like the broadcasters are saying, they're not good at warming up their tires. They have not been all season. And then that's what we saw play out. So the race starts, and then this was almost just like Abu Dhabi last year, the season-ending finale, where Hamilton was on an old set of tires, and then Verstappen's right behind him on fresher ones. And within, I don't know, on the main straight of the race restarting, Verstappen had the lead of the race again. And then about a lap later, George Russell passed Hamilton in a very, very close pass. Which was good watching like the cool down footage of seeing some of the drivers, everyone's reaction to how close it was.
Right. So let's talk about the Verstappen pass on Hamilton. So they talked to Nico Rosberg, and they said, look, if anyone can beat Verstappen on the mediums, it's going to be Hamilton. And so we've seen at the beginning of the season where Verstappen likes to play, and he gets super ahead of people before the proper quote unquote release. And I feel like the fact that he was so close to Hamilton on the end of the last safety car lap, that was kind of in violation of that rule, because he was like 90% of car length with Hamilton as he passed the line, whereas he should have been a car length. No,
it was, the thing is he has to be behind Hamilton when Hamilton starts, but he cannot pass until they cross the line.
Sure.
And that's what we saw.
Yeah.
I mean, Max was, when they crossed the line, Max was about a foot away from passing Hamilton.
Yeah.
Like his car.
That is true. That is true.
So, but yeah, and then it was, like I said, it was a real close pass about the next lap later when Russell passed Hamilton, but easily got around him. And then to add injury to insult, so Hamilton at one point thinks he's winning the race, and then he's like, okay, I'm gonna get second place. All right, sweet, I'll get third place. And then comes Carlos Sainz.
Bring the big red F upon everyone after so many penalties.
So many down setbacks, and he still came up.
And I'm touching with Hamilton on the first lap, the first corner,
Well, and he had an unsafe release after Bottas out, and cutting off Alonso, I believe.
Yeah, it was Alonso.
Yeah.
So yeah, then they finish out the race, and Jake's got our top 10.
I do. I have our top 10 finishers. So they're coming to you hot from finisher number 1, Max Verstappen, who is number 1 number on the car. Following him behind is Mercedes second driver, which is kind of synchronicity. Second driver, second place is George Russell. Charles Leclerc, Ferrari number one driver, finishing on the podium. Thank God we saw a red guy on the podium. Oh, so good. However, Lewis Hamilton, super sad, should have won that race, but didn't because Mercedes things. But, what are you going to do? Lewis Hamilton came in fourth. Sergio Perez doing Sergio Perez things, coming in fifth. At sixth, Fernando Alonso, oldest man on the grid, finishing super high on the grid. Happy about that. Lando Norris, another Brit driver, coming in number seventh. And we have Carlos Sainz, the other Ferrari driver, coming in eighth. Oh, excuse me, Esteban Ocon coming in ninth, and to round out your top 10, Lance motherfucking Stroll. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
And that's your official race result.
Is that his first
Nice.
points of the season? Stroll?
No, it's not his first points in the season, but it is probably his. Oh, I think he finished like ninth or eighth in another race, but
It's
about
still
it.
single digits in the points. We'll put it that way.
still single digits. So
Sweet.
Yeah. So that
Well
was
then,
that.
that was Zandvoort.
that was
Zandvoort.
number.
And
Zandvoort. So next week we have Monza, which is a super intense racetrack. It's very high speed. You got a couple of chicanes in there, but ultimately it pays to have a high speed setup on your car. Vettel does not like this track. He has had a couple of unsafe recoveries on that track. Leclerc is a one, so is Ricardo from this track. So we like that a lot.
so
Zach
has,
Brown.
Pierre Gasly and Charles Leclerc recently too.
Yeah, that says Charles Leclerc already, but Ricardo won, and he. No, was it Ricardo? Or was it
No, it was Ricardo.
Yeah, it was Ricardo,
Ricardo.
and he
Last
won.
year.
Zach Brown has the tattoo of Monza on his arm.
Yeah, and then the year before was AlphaTauri.
Yes, and then the year before that was Leclerc, because his first official win it was in 2019 at Spa, but it was a muted win because his BFF unfortunately died in a tragic accident, and then he won in Monza, which was his first official "let me celebrate properly" win, which I think was good. You don't like. It's gonna be hard. Like you have won your first F1 Grand Prix, but one of your best friends died in that weekend. So
Yeah, it's hard to really celebrate a win.
it's
when-
hard. Yeah, 100%. It's hard to celebrate that shit. So really, Monza, especially Monza being Monza, like his win, although it was off of a quote unquote asterisk cheaty engine by Ferrari, but a win's a win, and he did win in Monza, and that was great to have, and it's always fun, and I like when the winner of a racetrack can speak to the fans in their language. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like Max didn't do it when he won, but he did it when during qualifying, and he spoke in Dutch to the Dutch fans. And that was great. And when Leclerc won, he spoke in Italian to the fans. And I think when is that Paul recalled, he got pole, and during the pole thing, he spoke in French. So I think it's fun when the drivers speak in like the native language of the track. It's
Yeah.
Give the fans a little tip of
Yeah.
the cap.
Well, yeah, tip of the cap. Exactly.
Thanks for hosting a race.
Right, exactly. So
Speak your native tongue.
yeah, should we move on to our predictions for the next race?
Yeah, let's move on to our Monza predictions. Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
Well, let's start.
Yeah. Who wants to start? Dave, give us your predictions.
Oh fuck. All right, I'll make it quick too. Let's see. Uh Sign's gonna come out clean looking for redemption. So I'm seeing him on a podium. Red Bull,
Mhm.
probably see Max in on that podium as well, if not first. And third, I don't know. George Russell again. The guy's on fire.
Nice.
And then wild card, let's Ricardo turns the rest of the season around. That's my wild card.
All right, Tyler, what do you got?
Oh, choking apparently.
Mhm.
I think Red Bull's got the momentum, so I think we're gonna see them do really well again. You know, they've been on fire this whole season, so I'm thinking that Max for sure will be in first place. Second place, probably a Ferrari, maybe of Leclerc, and then maybe third place will be Sergio Perez. And then wild card predictions is going to be Mercedes 1-2, like we haven't seen in a while.
Ooh,
But maybe
okay.
with George Russell in first place.
Ooh, get his first.
That'd be kind of
victory.
fun. I would like to see GR get like a proper W. But
That
so
would be
Yeah.
my predictions, we got Monza. It's got two DRS zones. It's a really simple track, super high speed track. There's a couple chicanes, but besides that, it's full throttle for I don't know.
The
7
Temple of
track.
Speed.
The Temple of Speed. It's kind of fun. They used to have a wooden embankment. I think it was like a 45-degree angle or something.
Yeah, it
like
was
that.
pretty wicked.
Yeah, pretty much.
It
Anyway,
makes Zandvoort look like a
yeah,
flat.
yeah, toothpick, yeah. Um, so I think like Ferrari's gonna pull out like no holds barred, just come out, do dominance on Monza because that's like their home, even more than a Mola. That's like the home race for Ferrari, and they're even doing a special livery this week. So I think they are going to try their hardest. However, Max Verstappen is doing really well, and I think, sorry, Lewis, Lewis Hamilton is doing really well too. So I hate to say it, but I don't think that Ferrari is going to finish top 1-2. I think it's going to be a Hamilton Verstappen top 1-2, and Leclerc third, and Sainz a very close fourth. I think Perez is going to do really proper teammate stuff in keeping Verstappen in first place, but ultimately will follow team orders and fail behind and then finish out of the top five. My wild card is going to be, and I hate to say this being a Ferrari fan, is going to be a Leclerc Sainz 1-2 finish. And the third person on that's probably going to be Hamilton for my wild card. But I mean, this is kind of like where we're at this moment. I think Ferrari is just that they are not delivering in the same capacity they were at the first half of the season, and we are well past the second half. So
Yeah, and even for a wild card, that's stretching it.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that as a Ferrari fan, but it kind of the way it's looking.
You're right. It's hard to say, and especially in the home track, like you want to see Sainz and Leclerc 1-2, but I mean, fuck. I look at the performance that Ferrari's putting on the track and all that stuff, and the talent they have. Because
Yeah.
Carlos Sainz, like I've been watching Carlos Sainz since he came on the scene. He's been super good, and Leclerc is in the same respect. They are both very good drivers, and I hate to see them fall into the Ferrari black hole of being a good driver and then just not being able to deliver because of the team that you're a part of. And I'd say but Ferrari's the team like last race in Denmark. I was like, okay, well, where's Leclerc going to go to? Is he going to Schumacher and go to Mercedes? You just don't know.
You don't know.
Just don't know.
One small news thing I want to touch on real quick is Porsche might be pulling out of F1.
What?
I heard there was some turbulence in the Red Bull Porsche deal or whatever.
There's some heavy turbulence, and that has a lot to do with the fact that their sister company Audi has already announced they're going to be in Formula One. So back in the day, we talked about this in another podcast weeks ago, where I told you guys that Porsche bought 50% of Red Bull's holding for F1 or motorsport royalties or whatever. But I misheard or was misquoted you. They were looking to purchase 50%. They had not yet. And the fact that Audi, their sister company under the umbrella of Volkswagen, because if you didn't know, Volkswagen owns Audi, Porsche, and Lamborghini, to name a few. Porsche decided they didn't like that announcement from Audi and kind of pulled out of the whole thing. So it's looking like Red Bull might not get amazing Porsche motors in 2026.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Yes, that's a big oof.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're doing really well right now with what they're still using the Honda.
Yes. But Honda is pledged to be out, so they might be looking for another motor.
Well, I also heard, I heard a while back that Red Bull is actually looking to start manufacturing their own power units.
I think they currently are.
No, I think they started, right? And so when they announced that they were going to be making their own power units, very soon after that, Porsche announced they might be into entering Formula One. And I think that was a strategic move that F1 said, or Red Bull said, we're going to start producing our own motors to power F1 team. But what they meant was we're going to produce our own Porsche motors to fit into our cars. And then Porsche was like, you know what, dude? Audi's already in this. I'm fucking out. You know, it's something the umbrella company for Volkswagen not doing that shit. And now Red Bull's like, well, fuck, we're struggling to find another engine provider for 2026 because I don't think that Red Bull was fully ready to develop their own motor at that year. I think they were banking on the fact that Porsche was going to develop a motor for them. So
I did not know the depth of it. So, all right, that's good to know.
All right. Well, we'll have to see how that plays out.
Yep. And we'll have to keep our fingers crossed that they can find a good motor provider for the next year, or Max Verstappen will not get a 3-peat. He will be a 2-year champion because at this rate, he's going to get those championships.
Yep. It's looking real good for him. So
Yeah.
I think he would literally take every other race from here to the end to lose the shit on that. So
yeah. Well,
I think that's all we got for you, gents. So this has been the Tire Preference Podcast.
thank you
Jacob.
for listening.
Yep, I'm Jacob. That's Tyler. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Yep. We're still pretty small scale, but we enjoy every like and subscribe we can get, every share, tell your friends. if you have to take their phone and log into YouTube by yourself and like and subscribe this podcast, please do. That's what I do. So
Pirate subscriptions, we'll take them.
yeah, we'll take them. So
Right on.
yeah, if you want to follow me on social media, I'm at the Red Candy 25 on Instagram, the Red Candy on Twitter. If you want to follow the podcast, you can follow that at the Preference Pod, Tire Preference Pod on YouTube, and you can follow Dave at
Maximum_Dave on the Instagrams, and also at featuring next Friday on the Instagrams as well.
yes, feature next Friday, which will have a grand new post about their new living arrangement.
Oh yeah, there'll be a plethora of posts coming soon once we get this place in order.
Yeah, go check that out. And you can find Tyler at
T.K.66 on Instagram. And that's it. On social media.
and eventually you'll be able to find us on the streaming website, but we're still figuring that shit out, so bear with us.
Yes, please. It's been a slow process.
It has been agonizingly slow and surprisingly so far, so it's
Less than a minute.
it's not on our side, believe us.
All right. Well, we might have to sign this one off without sign-offs because we got less than a minute.
Yep, all right, sign it off.
All right. Hit your braking zones.
Oh, yeah, follow track limit.
And just hit the gas.
Love you.